Giannis built his dominance with power, grit, and sheer will. Wemby, on the other hand, is redefining dominance with length, skill, and touch. But there's one part of the game that separates them both, and it starts with the shot.
Cannot have everything in life. Cannot have everything. Cannot be handsome, beautiful kids, beautiful wife, great family, great teammate, great coaching staff, handsome, athletic. I cannot have everything in life. I cannot make threes too. God had to keep me humble. God said basically, cannot make threes.
So, in this video, we're going to break down what Giannis struggles with within his jump shot compared to what Wemby gets right within his shot. And you guys will see that it doesn't matter how short, tall, long, or how big you guys are, but all great shooters follow similar principles. Let's dive into it. First, let's break down Giannis's form from the setup to the release. So you see here, he sets up with the ball directly in the middle of his body. You will see many other great shooters have this same exact setup where the ball is directly in the middle. You are either going to set up in the middle or more off to your dominant side hip. So for Giannis, that'll be his right side hip. Either one is going to be perfectly fine, but he just decides to set up in the middle, and this is a great position. Next, you'll see the seams of the basketball are slightly angled, and that is perfectly fine as well, because the same thing with other great shooters, this is going to happen. The seams are going to be slightly turned. Now, the big thing is to make sure that your wrist and your fingertips are going in the same direction, and he has that happening for him within his jump shot. This is great because if he moves the ball from this position to his set point in a straight line, so he just moves it straight up, this will let me know everything will stay aligned if he moves with no other movement. So the next thing I want you guys to pay attention to is his guide hand. Now, most people are going to say this is in a funky position, but we have to remember that Giannis has huge hands. So it's not going to look the same as somebody with normal size hands. So what we're looking at is to see if his fingertips are near the middle of the basketball or anywhere beyond that. And yes, his fingertips are right near the middle, so he is in a good position. It does look like his hands are too close to each other kind of at the top, but you just have to remember he has big hands. Now, what I want you guys to pay attention to next is his left elbow. Now, this is a piece of the puzzle that doesn't fit so well. If you look at it, it's completely flared out and away from his body. His shooting side elbow is a whole lot closer, and that's what we want with his guide hand elbow. But because it's so far out and it's flared out, that lets me know, once again, if he moves in a straight line and he doesn't make any other extra movements, now his guide hand elbow is going to be higher than his shooting hand elbow. And we don't want that because that causes imbalances. So now when he gets to the top of his shot at his set point, he might be leaning a little too far to the right, or because his guide hand elbow is up a little bit higher, now he's going to be flared out, and that's going to hurt his chances on shooting the ball straighter. Now, if we look at Wemby's setup in comparison to Giannis' setup, he sets up with the ball in the middle of his body, just like Giannis, right? So if he were to move the ball, it would be right above the middle of his forehead. But if you look at the seams of the basketball, they're slightly angled, just like Giannis, and his fingertips are going in the same direction as the seams, his shooting fingertips. But then if you look at the guide hand near the middle of the basketball with his fingertips, once again, if he has big hands and he spread them out, it would look just like Giannis's. But the difference is, if you look at his upper body, how relaxed he looks. Both of his elbows are connected to his sides, but he isn't forcing the elbows down. He's nice and relaxed. So if he were to move from this position straight up to his 2 position, everything will be stacked and aligned in the same way. Now, the crazy thing is, a rookie Giannis set up in a perfect way. Now, why he changed, we have no idea. But if we look at both his arms, his shooting side and his guide hand side, everything is close to his body, aligned with his body, so it's going in the same direction. The laces are facing at an angle, shooting fingertips going in the same way. The only thing I would adjust from this position is to slightly bring his upper half up, so having more of a bigger chest in a sense, so having more of his chest pointing towards the rim. Not too high, but I feel like he's just facing a little bit too far down, but everything else is perfect. So now let's dive into how he moves from his start point to his set point. Now, a huge shout out to Mike Dunn. A great quote that I heard from him is that music is the space in between notes. Now, the same thing goes for shooting. How we move in between the individual points in time are just as important as getting into the right positions to begin with. Now, one of the biggest things that you see here is that he overtucks his elbow to the inside as he lifts the ball up. Now, every coach is going to tell you to make sure you have your elbow tucked in, but Giannis's problem is that he overtucks the elbow. When you overtuck the elbow on your lift up, you actually cause more harm than good. When it comes to shooting, I want you guys to notice your wrist is always going to follow your elbow. So when you over tuck your elbow to the inside, that means your wrist is going to over rotate to the inside as well. When your wrist over rotates to the inside, that's going to flare your fingers out to the outside. Now, the issue with this is when he goes to flick his wrist, you'll see his elbow flare back out just to give him room to be able to flick his wrist straight down. Now, this extra movement at the top of your jump shot is an inefficient movement. We want to have efficient movements so we can be as simple as possible and as efficient as possible. At the end of the day, can Giannis still make shots? Obviously. So this isn't the end of the world when it comes to making or missing shots. But what we're trying to do is be as consistent as possible. So when we have these little inconsistencies or these little extra movements within our shot, it forces us to have to be closer to perfect within our shot. And we don't want to be close to perfect because basketball is already hard enough. Think about the distance we have to shoot from, all the speed that we have to take into these shots when we're trying to beat somebody off the dribble. We already have to do so much within our shot. To now have to compete with our own selves within our shot is doing way too much. We want to be as consistent as possible, so we want to be as simple as possible. Now let's break down Wemby and how he moves from his starting position to his set point. If you pay attention, right here his elbows are well connected down by his sides and he's nice and relaxed with his upper half. When he goes to move and lift that ball up, you can see his shooting side elbow has very little to no movement from where it started to now where it ends, versus where Giannis had that overtuck, Wemby stayed relatively in the same position. As you can see, he has no extra movement in his elbow as he goes to flick his wrist. His wrist is able to just firmly snap all the way through with no extra movement at the top. The last thing we're going to break down is how each of these players finish their shots, starting off with Giannis. So you guys can see Giannis has more of a vertical finish, so the ball goes from his set point and it travels more up into the air before he lets it go. This is what I label more as a long shot because, like I said, the ball is in his set point and then he lets the ball travel up into space before letting it go and flicking his wrist. Now compared to Wemby gets to his set point and now he's almost extending towards the basket a whole lot faster. This is what I label as more of a shorter shot, right? Because the ball is at his set point and then from his set point, he's letting that ball go right to the rim. And now that ball has less time in his hands because it's not going straight up and then out. It's already at the set point and now he's letting it go towards the rim. The reason why this is so important and we need to cover this and talk about this is because this right here covers one of the three most important things that the ball needs to do to go into the rim, which is go out or cover distance. When you have that longer shot, it's harder to cover that distance. Imagine trying to have that vertical shot like Giannis, but you're step back at the 3-point line. That's going to be hard to make the ball go from you towards the rim. Versus Wemby, he has that short shot, so now that ball can cover that distance a little bit easier. They're both at the free throw line, so all it is about 15 feet, but still you need to get the ball to go from you to the rim. Now, like I said, this is just one of the three most important things that the ball itself needs to do to go into the rim. If you guys want to find out about the other two, just go down to the link in the description. It'll send you guys to a free PDF where you guys can learn how to make every single shot. As you guys can tell, a little does go a long way when it comes to shooting. Yes, you need tons of reps to become a great shooter, but not only do you need reps, you need an efficient form. You don't want to pile on a lot of reps on inefficient form because now you're going to need to almost shoot 2 times as much as somebody who has a more efficient shot. If you guys feel like you have a solid shooting form, but for some reason you just aren't as consistent as you want to be, then just head down to the link in the description, grab our free PDF, and that will help you guys out. Make sure you guys stay in the gym and keep working on those small details to help your shot become more efficient so you guys can eventually become a confident and consistent shooter.